Hey everyone, it's Heather over at the Crunchy Trail, and tonight I'm going to try to do a lesson on making a tincture and a tea with some viral fighting herbs. I've got a little sicky in my house, so these top herbs are the ones I'm using, and they are the herbs that are a little more mild for the little ones. Other useful herbs listed at the bottom can be used for adults that don't mind the stronger taste. The tincture, you only have to give a little bit of the tea. You have to kind of convince them to drink more, so you want something a little milder. So I'm going to turn it around and try to show you what I'm doing here with each of these wonderful herbs. Okay, here we go. And some of you might be joining in on the replay. I got to get my camera propped up here. So, like I said, we're going to use catnip, echinacea, elderberry, feverfew, lavender, lemon balm, marshmallow root, olive leaf, and thyme. I'm making a tea and a tincture because I need some right away, and the tincture has to sit for a little while. I'll explain that in a minute. Let me get propped up so you can see. Okay, I already have all of the herbs I'm using in this jar. You can see how full it is. This is going to be my tincture jar, and what I'm going to do for a tincture is it's going to make a really strong herb that I can put the just use a dropper full like you would any medicine. So here is, this has thyme leaf, and I showed the list at the beginning, I'll show it again. Olive leaf, marshmallow root, feverfew, lemon balm, lavender, elderberries, echinacea, and catnip. And these are my mild herbs for these, and I'm going to add over the top of the herbs some glycerin. I do have some pure grain alcohol to extract from the herbs, so I'm just going to fill a little glycerin because I want it sweeter. This herb mixture is going to set in the closet for a while. I'm going to have to get a spoon here. Oops. Turn my water on for the tea. Okay, and I've packed them in just a little bit tight. So there's that, and I have some hot water going. You see I'm just soaking the herbs a little bit with alcohol. It'll help extract. This is really strong, so I will heat this up before I bottle it once I strain it in about 3 weeks. I do not want to give it to the baby like this. It's going to sit in a dark, cold closet and let the herbs just steep in the alcohol mix. This is not something you want to just, give to the kids with a bunch of alcohol in it. You want to cook it off after I strain them out. And then I do mine a little differently than a lot of people because I go ahead and put the water in too. And I'm just going to cover the herbs. I'm going to stir them around a little bit, make sure it gets down in there good. So again, the list of herbs is at the beginning, and I will do a blog post on this, thecrunchytrail.com, which will have the step-by-step instructions written out also, if you want to print those or something later. But this is for colds and these are herbs that are really good for colds and flus. Catnip helps lower fever, so does feverfew. The elderberries are a good antiviral. They're also a great immune booster. There's even been some government studies on the effects of elderberry and how wonderful it is. Lavender is kind of a sedative effect, helps them to rest. Lemon balm is an antiviral. We have marshmallow root, which is an antibacterial, antiviral. So is olive leaf and thyme. So I'm just kind of trying to get the things that fight viruses and bacteria. Colds and flu are more of a virus. So once I get that filled up, I just cap it. This is going to sit in a cold, dark closet. Not necessarily cold, but cool, dark, for several weeks, and we're just going to shake it every now and then. While this sits in tinctures, I'll label it later, and this will be, I buy most of my herbs from Bulk Herb Store. I will be selling some on my site, but right now Mountain Rose Herbs and Bulk Herb Store. I'm sorry if I'm missing any comments. I need to look at what I'm doing. So anyway, that's the tincture, that's the herbs. That's all I'm doing. They sit, they steep, it gets really strong. When it's done, I'll strain it through some cheesecloth and warm it up to cook the alcohol off, strain it again, squeeze all the herbs out, and put it in a bottle in the refrigerator. And then when they get sick, I'll give a dropper full of it every 2 to 4 hours as needed to kind of fight the symptoms and fight off what's going on with them. So that's that. Okay, we've made a tincture. See how quick and easy it was? Just herbs in a jar, some alcohol, some glycerin. You can put honey in here too after it's done. I add honey to it to sweeten it up and bring it back to a normal taste where they'll eat it, because your kids will not take it. But it's just like any other medicine. You got to get it down them, and you don't want it to taste great, or they'll be drinking it when they don't need it. So that's an herbal tincture. Now we're going to do an herbal tea. which is basically the same thing, except for I just take, and this is what I call my quick tincture. It's really not a tea, because a 1-year-old, who's I have sick, he's 1.5, almost 2, he's not going to drink a tea. So I'm just going to put a couple of spoonfuls or a couple of handfuls of each herb into the jar. Here's my jar. Just grabbing some herbs. I'm grabbing them by the handful, probably about a tablespoon or so of each. And I will then, like I said, he's not going to, I'm about out of lavender flowers, oh no. He is not going to drink a big glass of tea at all. He is going to simply want to take a tablespoon or two at a time and be done with it, just like medicine. My big kids are even a little, they're not picky eaters, but they're whiny when it comes to my herbal remedies. Try to leave the bitter herbs out, but sometimes you have bitter herbs in your teas. This is so much easier than blogging. I should have done this a long time ago. I'm glad I found Periscope. Okay, and so there's a little bit of each herb. I've made a mess all over my counter. I'm going to get my hot water again. I'm going to pour it over here, and that's it. You're just a couple of tablespoons of each herb into a jar. This is just a little less than a quart. This is one of my small jars I just had running around. Fill it up. I'm going to let this sit overnight on my counter and just steep. And then, honestly, a lot of people then would strain it out and they would give it, instead of like the tincture, which is going to be really strong and you give a dropper full, this for my little one I would probably give, and I'm not a doctor, let me add this disclaimer in there, I'm not saying that you need to check with your doctor. We've been to our pediatrician today, we know we're dealing with a virus. She knows what I'm doing, I hope. Anyway, we've talked about it, and I've been using herbs for a long time. But this is just going to sit overnight. It's going to make a nice strong tea. And if I were an adult, I would put just a little bit of each of these in a cup, pour some hot water over it, add some honey and lemon, and I would sip on the tea, and it would be soothing and relaxing. You know, you're not going to get a kid to do that. So now I'll give him a tablespoon every couple of hours. I leave mine in the refrigerator. It sits overnight on the counter. Then I'll leave it in the refrigerator for a day or two. Just with the herbs in it. I don't take them out. I strain them off as needed, or I get a dropper and pull them out as needed. But, on the other hand, you can go ahead tomorrow morning, strain it off, and just use it as it is. It's a little weaker. The more the herbs in it, the stronger it gets. So I strain them as I go along. That's just my personal preference. Again, like I said, you can take, if you've got one that'll drink a hot, soothing tea when they're feeling bad, you can take each of these herbs, add a little cinnamon, add a little honey, put it in a cup or in a tea ball. I have this kind. They have several on Amazon. The list of herbs is catnip, echinacea, elderberry, feverfew, lavender, lemon balm, marshmallow root, olive leaf, and thyme. I don't know if you can see those there or not. The ones on the bottom are more like adult herbs. They're not ones that kids would necessarily drink in their tea or tincture, but it's not going to taste great. It's herbs. It tastes kind of like dirty grass water. So, but this is the tea ball. I would put a little bit of each herb in this and steep it in a teacup. And I would drink it because it tastes really good to just sit and drink the herbs as a, soothing drink. If you have a sore throat, add some cloves. If you have a runny nose, you can add some eucalyptus leaf. If you have, I was trying to think of symptoms. Mullein leaf, I think I had on the other list, is really good if you have respiratory issues. Oregano is a great, strong antiviral. Garlic is really good for about anything kind of infection. It has, I think, 52 or 57 antibiotic components in it. It can't really be mimicked, but I've treated staph, I've treated strep, I've treated ear infections with garlic. All of those are with garlic, and I'm going to do some instructional videos if these go over well with some garlic ear oil and other things we can use. I'm going to do my next scope in just a few minutes on making a cold and flu oil rub or chest rub with my essential oils. These were the herbs, so I wanted to do the herbs tonight, and if there's anybody on here live that has any questions or any more questions, you can ask me, but this is just going to sit in my refrigerator overnight. The baby is asleep right now. When he wakes up in the morning, I will start him on, as his fever runs and as he feels bad, a couple of tablespoons or so of this every couple of hours, and that will be what he takes for his medicine. I've used this successfully through several kids. I've been doing herbs about 16 years. My oldest is 19. And we use herbs more than we use conventional medicine. We do go see our pediatrician. We do get our diagnosis from them. And I do check back with them in a couple of days to make sure we're improving. I don't just leave my kids out there to suffer it out. If they're not getting better, I will use an antibiotic. It's just my last resort. But I'm not going to let the kids suffer or get really sick over it. So here's a little bit of instruction, tincture equals with the alcohol and the glycerin. Sorry, I had a mommy moment there. You got the quick tincture, which is what I'm doing in the jar that's going to set overnight with just water. And then I'll add honey. When I strain it off, or as I put it in a cup to give to him, I will add honey or something to sweeten it a little bit. I don't advise sugar. Sugar feeds viruses and bacteria. And then lemon, cinnamon, things to make it taste better. Like I said, sore throat, add cloves. And we have just a regular tea you can do if they'll drink a cup of hot, soothing tea. So that's about it. That's how quick you can do. I did a tincture that's going to set in the closet and get really strong in a thing. So I appreciate everybody joining me.